Hi everyone. Hello and welcome back to another wonderful day here at the online summit Connecting Soul Beings. Today it is my honor to introduce you to Trisha Wren. Trisha is based in New Zealand and she founded her company Everything Energetic. Trisha is an animal communicator, a healing and energy rebalancer as well. And we talk about how she got into animal communication and how unusual it is to be able to do this here in this world. And we also talk about energy balancing and connecting to the animals to allow the healing for us to take place as well. So grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee and enjoy this beautiful conversation. So today we are joined by the wonderful Trisha Wren from Everything Energetic. Trisha is based in New Zealand and she's an animal communicator. Welcome, Trisha.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's wonderful to have you here today, and it's absolutely amazing to talk to another animal communicator, which is fantastic. Yes. Yeah, wonderful. So I'd love to find out, how did you actually get into animal communication?
Well, it's been a bit of a long route, I think. I've had animals all my life. And I've had horses all of my adult life.
Oh, wonderful.
And so from when I had my first horse in my early 20s, I started teaching horse riding of various types and organizing horse events, all sorts of things like that. And I always wanted to be able to have a deeper connection with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had particular problems with one of my horses that I just couldn't figure out. And I remember, oh gosh, we're going back probably 30 years now. I can remember getting an animal communicator to talk to her back then. And so on my kind of quest to have a better connection with my horses, I did Reiki 1 and 2, and I tried meditating, but I couldn't do it. Tried all sorts of ways, and it just stuck. I just thought, I can't do that. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I went to a couple of animal communication workshops. They kind of really didn't do it for me either. Something about the format, excuse me, the format of the in-person format of a kind of weekend workshop with lots of people and live animals and also photos of animals. Mm-hmm. I got bits and pieces of information there and then during the course, but when I came home, I couldn't replicate it. So I just thought, I can't do this. I'm useless at this. It's not meant to be, you know. And it wasn't until about 4 or 5 years ago now, when a friend took me to a meditation group, that things really opened up for me. There was something about that particular group. It was a long established group, and they had really strong energy and established connections with the universe and all kinds of interesting beings, if you like.
Yeah.
And from the very first night that I went to that group, everything just exploded for me. And so from then on, I felt kind of like I'd been fast-tracked, and every different kind of experience was thrown at me, which was great. And I'm the sort of person that is insatiably curious, which I see as a strength. Yeah. And I have no fear. Nothing bad has happened to me, and nothing bad is going to happen to me. And so I just kind of say, bring it on, you know, and what's next?
Mm.
So I had all these amazing experiences, and I was working as a riding instructor,
Mm-hmm.
teaching biomechanics to horses and riders, and so teaching them how to use their bodies better, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and traveling all over New Zealand and Australia doing that. And so when I was working doing that, I kind of had a captive audience. So I
Yeah.
would start practicing these things that I was getting in this meditation group on the horses in those classes that I was teaching. And so I just kind of expanded things from there. And so on the one hand, I think anyone can do this, and if you have access to the right energy and you're open to it, you can probably do this.
Yes.
But I also think, for me anyway, it is a practiced skill.
Mm-hmm.
I think because I'm doing it all the time, my abilities keep building.
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider myself to be, this might sound odd, I don't consider myself to be a natural animal communicator, or what is considered to be the norm as an animal communicator.
Yeah.
I don't get streams of conversation. I don't get, if I'm at the beach or the dog park or something, I don't have all those dogs chatting to me and clamoring to be heard. I just don't get those streams of conversation like that. That's not how it works for me.
Yeah.
But I think that's possibly reassuring to people to hear as well, that I think people have, maybe I did, or maybe I still do, have a very particular idea about how animal communication works.
Yes. Yeah.
But it works differently for everyone. Some people get those streams of conversation, and some I see pictures, I see colors, I see energy.
Mm-hmm.
I get snippets of words or phrases,
Mm-hmm.
and I can ask questions and get the answers to my questions. So I've kind of developed a protocol that I go through when I'm doing a session with an animal,
Yeah.
to get a full picture of what's going on. But it's not like I'm having a conversation with them.
Okay, yeah. And I agree, there is definitely different ways to connect with them, and we all develop the way it is interpreted for us.
Yeah.
And how we connect, because we are all individuals. So,
Yeah.
and we all receive things in a different way, and we learn things in a different way, and the same goes for animal communication. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and what you said there about interpreting it, yeah, I think that's it exactly. That, and that's partly why I said it's a practiced skill, because you have to practice in order to figure out how to interpret the way that you personally get that information.
Exactly.
What does it mean when I see this, or I hear that, or I feel such and such?
Yes.
And it's only by doing lots of sessions that you start to figure out, oh yeah, that means this, and you can have some confidence about what it is that you're experiencing. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's I love when you said, oh, I'm not one of those people that always had that, or that always has those string of conversations happening. I love that you raised that, because a lot of people are of that understanding that is what we can do.
Yeah.
And so it is a skill that you tap into. It is a skill that you learn. We can do it. However, like you say, be open to that energy, and then practice. And that's exactly what it is. You do practice around that, and then it becomes second nature. And you can switch it on and you can switch it off. You know? So, and that's really wonderful, because I do know, having spoken to many people around this, that they are of that understanding. Oh, that's a gift. That's something that nobody else can do but you. And if someone else can do it, they are born that way.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting, because yes, we are born to be able to tune into it. We are born to have access to those levels of communication, absolutely.
Mm.
It's how you are going to be using that throughout your life. And with animals, that comes in, you know.
Yeah.
I am one of those people that can walk in the park and I can hear everybody chat to me. However, I make the decision whether I'm open to it, yes or no.
Yes.
To them, it's like, am I open to having that social party? Am I open to
Yeah.
doing the business? So, but most of the time for me, I just love it because that's part of me re-energizing as well, and being out in nature and connecting with all the animals. I love having those conversations,
Right.
It pops in and out.
Yes.
But I've learned to be able to switch that off and on as
Yeah.
well. So,
Yeah. Well, it would, because it could be overwhelming or exhausting if you
absolutely.
didn't learn to control that.
Yes, absolutely. It is. It can be very overwhelming, and also, it can drain your energy.
Mm.
And if we don't learn how we can actually manage that, then you can be tired every single moment of the day.
Mm.
Yeah. So how is that for you? Because I love it when you say, I can see the pictures and the colors, and for me, to an extent, I have that as well. However, for me to see pictures and colors, I use my hands and I apply Reiki, and through my
Okay.
hands, I see.
Right.
So I have my third eye going on and off, where a lot of people can see through their third eye. That's the clairvoyance part.
Yeah.
However, for me, I hear a lot and I feel even more, but the seeing doesn't come until I activate my hands, and then my eye and my hands work together to be able to visualize
Right.
it.
Yeah. That's
So
interesting, isn't it?
yes. So I'm curious to
I
find out
get.
from you.
Yeah. Well, so I would say that I am clairvoyant,
Mm-hmm.
and I also get feelings, but more not so much feelings like pain, but emotions.
Ah, okay.
So I can feel if the animal is scared or anxious or
Mm-hmm.
sad. I feel that. So that's how I interpret what's going on. They
Yeah.
don't say I'm feeling sad. I feel the sadness and know that they're sad.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I've found interesting, the way it works for me, is if I learn something in person, then I can do it so I do all my sessions remotely, and I do them in a meditative state.
Mm-hmm.
Sit in
Mm-hmm.
my meditation chair, close my eyes, and I connect, and
Yeah.
that's how I do it. So if I've learned something in person, I can then do it in my sessions. So for instance, when I was working with horses, I learned some different modalities of equine body work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can now do them in my meditation. It's as if I can see myself doing a little tweak here or doing this bit of body work there.
Yes.
Same with I've done pendulum courses for rebalancing energy. Well, now I can do that in my head.
Yes. Yes.
And the same with the Reiki too. Having done Reiki 1 and 2 all those years ago, I feel like I can do that in my sessions as well. So all of my sessions, because I work with a lot of horses too, my sessions tend to include some sort of healing or body work or rebalancing.
Beautiful. Yeah, and that's very, very similar what we do in that respect as well. Because you do work with that energy from a remote place, and the tuning in is really, for me, stand out. It's really bringing myself to that frequency, and it's almost like tuning into that radio station where you match that frequency to start hearing very clearly what's being sent to us in terms of the messages, and then somehow that's translated and very quickly that comes out of my mouth.
Yes.
Without filter.
Yes.
Just whoop. And that's the fun part, I think, as well. I'm quite similar in that with the Reiki, you learn it physically and you apply it. And I've done it with people and with animals, and you do it physically there as well. But when I do it remotely, I usually ask the animal to lay down in my hand. And then with my other hand, I go over it, and then I scan the body and then apply the healing wherever that's needed. And then I also get more information again because I use my hands. Therefore, there are more pictures becoming more visible.
Yeah.
And I can see certain things where aches and pains might be. I can feel the level of aches and pains.
Yeah.
I can sense the emotions as well.
Yeah.
And it comes through in color for me too. So the more intense the pain is, the blacker the color becomes.
Yes.
Which is fascinating. And that's how I can identify, okay, it's just a discomfort, or actually that is a lot of pain,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I scan with my eyes. With
Okay.
my third eye, I guess you would say. It's almost like when you're photocopying something and you see the light scanning the piece of paper from left to right.
Okay.
That's kind of what my scan is like. It's as if I'm seeing the animal standing in front of me sideways on, and I scan them from nose to tail and then the other side, and I get stopped where there's an issue, and then I can investigate that more, or ask questions, or do whatever's necessary there.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes it can be resolved in that session. And sometimes the animal says, I actually need to go and see a vet, or something needs to be adjusted in my food, or whatever that is. Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah.
It's actually good to talk about this, because you often don't realize that I do know that people experience it in a different way, because I do teach people how to communicate with animals as well. And that process, and having been a vocational education and trainer for many years as well, there are the different learning styles. And I have noticed that there is a similarity in that. The way we learn often is also the way we communicate at a spiritual and energetic level. So if we are very visual in learning, we are often clairvoyant as well. So I
would say that's probably the case for me, because I'm visual kinesthetic, and that's definitely what I get when I'm doing animal communication sessions.
For me it's kinesthetic and audio, and then visual. So it's wonderful how that all works together.
I know. I wondered how so for the last year and a half, it might be a couple of years now, about once a month now, I go to local spiritual fairs and do sessions, little mini sessions in person.
Okay.
And the first time I went, because most of my sessions are remote, people just email me a photo of their animal. And I thought, can I do this in person? On the spur of the moment kind of thing, not just sitting calmly in my chair. I actually have someone sitting in front of me waiting for the words to come out of my mouth. Can I do it? And I did have a sense of trepidation the first time I went along. But I just kind of handed over the not the responsibility, but the worry, any concern about it. If I'm supposed to do this, let me do this. And it just seems to happen. And so it's interesting. I think it's probably good for me to have that, be doing it a different way as well, and have those different experiences, and have to access the information slightly differently. Doing it in person like that. So that's been quite interesting too. And like you, I've been teaching, I developed an animal communication course, but mine is online, because I hadn't had a great experience doing it in person all those years ago. And also because I'm in New Zealand, and it's a much smaller population here, and therefore if I was doing it in person, you've got a much smaller pool of people that could potentially come in person to a class. So I thought, no, I'm going to do this online. And so we've had Kiwis, Australians, and on my last course I even had someone from the UK, which was interesting time difference wise, but we managed.
Yes.
Because it's all live calls.
Okay.
And so it's been really good. I think what people get out of it the most, apart from the fact that it runs over 6 weeks, so they're getting new information each week and new the ability to practice that and come back the next week and share their experiences. So they're adding new layers each week and getting a really solid experience and skill.
Yeah.
Apart from that, the biggest thing they get out of it is being able to share with each other the experiences that they get, and the fact that one person sees stuff very clearly and one person gets streams of information and the other one just feels the emotion or the pain. They find it really reassuring that actually we all get the information differently.
Yes.
And it just comes back to figuring out how you get your information and being able to interpret it and practice that. Get that really solid.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that's absolutely what I experienced too, and people often start off with saying, oh, I would never be able to do that, or block here or block there. And then I usually refer back. So what is your initial way that your primary way of learning? How do you retain information initially? What is the best method for you? And then you go back to that, and that really, it makes it more feasible at some level. And it helps them to get their ego on the path as well, because the spiritual side of us really loves doing this sort of work and really wants it, but then you also have to deal with your ego at the same time going, that's bullshit.
I think I just made that up. I couldn't possibly, that couldn't have happened. I must have made it up.
Oh God, sometimes, and I'm sure you have it too, even though we've been doing it for so many years, it still comes up on occasion where you sit there and you hear something from the animal and it's like, nah, this can't be, I'm just making this up to go along. But then you get the validation from the client going, actually, that is the case, and just put on here and then. I'm like, oh, okay.
I learned that fairly quickly because I had a few experiences early on where I thought, that's really random, that can't mean anything, or I don't think I should tell her that, or that sort of thing. Do a quick check-in and get, no, you're supposed to tell her that. Pass on the information and as you say, get that validation or the story behind whatever it was, and just go, oh, okay. I had one horse that when I was looking at him, he wouldn't let me see the right side of his face.
Okay.
And I thought, that's kind of odd. I could see the left-hand side no problem at all, but not the right-hand side. It was like he was turned away from me. And I thought, that's really odd, but everything else seemed fine. And sent my email back to the owner telling her everything that I'd got, and I thought, should I mention that or is that irrelevant? Oh, I better just mention it. So I put in there one slightly odd thing. He wouldn't let me see his right hand side. It was as if he was turned away from me the whole time. And she emailed back and said, oh yeah, he was very in his later years, he was very he lost his sight a little bit in his right eye, and he was very cautious around people that he didn't know, and he wouldn't let them see his right hand side until he felt confident about them and knew them. And I just kind of went, oh, okay then. So I've learned just to pass it on. Even if it makes no sense whatsoever to me, I pass it on, and invariably the owner says, yep, that sounds like her. That's because of such and such, or and they know exactly what it's about.
Yes, absolutely. And that's wonderful, because then it really resonates for them too, because it's a validation for them to say, "Oh, wow, you're actually talking to my horse." You know?
Yes.
Okay. But also for ourselves to just revalidate that it is what it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love it that you check in with spirit to go, okay, is this something that I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
pass on? And they definitely, yeah, and they're quite persistent in that too, I've noticed.
Yes.
It's almost like you get slept going, come on, you have to share
Yeah.
everything. So what I now do is through email, sometimes it comes very quickly as well, but more often than not, I actually record what comes through because I have to verbalize it, and it comes through
Right.
so quickly that sometimes I can't even, and I type pretty quickly, but I can't keep up the speed of the writing and the typing of what the information is that comes through.
Yeah.
So I audio record everything, and that's what I send
Right.
through. And I go, here it is, listen to it, and let me know, and then and that's for me personally also the best way because I can really remain focused. I don't have to worry about writing
Yeah,
things down.
definitely. Yeah, when you're getting streams of words like that, that's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mine is more, because I don't get that, and mine is more structured, if you like, because I don't get that.
Yeah,
I just make notes as I go, and then I type it up and send it back to
yeah,
them,
yeah.
and then go to and fro.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And it's a wonderful way to do it as well. So I was just thinking back to what you said earlier about the overwhelm, how when we, for example, walk around and we feel really overwhelmed and drained and tired, I can appreciate that a lot of people may experience the same and they might not even know what that is. People who don't even talk to animals or not having that spiritual connection very consciously, they might walk around somewhere or they go to an event or maybe go out shopping and they come home and they feel really drained. And
Yeah.
I have heard that people say, oh, that's just because I'm just tired, right? But they may not realize that it is an energy drain because you might go to areas where there is a lot of stuff coming through that we're not recognizing. And it might even be, the negativity around certain areas too.
Yeah.
How would you suggest we can cope with that? What can we do to prevent that drainage?
I think that's a very common thing for people who are empaths.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, there are probably a lot of people out there who don't realize that they're an empath. So if you get those feelings of exhaustion, the thing to do would be to start identifying when you feel certain ways. Where have you just been? Who have you been around? That sort of thing. Does it happen only when you've been somewhere very crowded with people, for instance, because there's a lot of negative energy? If you're an animal empath, is it when you've been to a horse show or the zoo? That's kind of when it gets me. So being able to identify when it happens, or is it when you're with particular people? Maybe you're picking up their emotions. I had one friend who was sitting in the doctor's surgery feeling absolutely fine. I think she was just there to pick up her husband's prescription or something. She felt fine. Somebody came in and was in obvious distress, and next thing she knew, she was having a panic attack because she was picking up all that distress. Starting to be able to identify it and know when it happens for you would be one thing. And there are things you can do you could avoid going to those places. You could avoid being around those particular people if that's an option for you. You can learn how to keep your energy in a good place so that doesn't affect you as much. You can learn ways of protecting yourself so that sort of thing kind of bounces off you, if you like, as if you almost have a protective shield around you. So there are things you can do. I always thought I am I'm curious about the link between being an introvert and being an empath. I feel like maybe there's a link there, but maybe not. I'm not sure. I'm an introvert. I get energetically drained when I'm in crowds of people.
Yeah.
Or, you know, lots of people talking at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm much better one-to-one like this. Put me in a crowd and I just shut up. You know, like I don't compete to have my voice heard. I don't talk over people. That's just not me. And I always thought that's because I'm an introvert, but maybe it's also because I'm an empath. I'm not sure where the line is there.
Yeah.
I can remember even as a child, if my parents had visitors, say family friends came for the day at the weekend or something, I can remember going up to my room in the afternoon for a nap just to get away from all the hubbub, because it just completely drained me. And you know, I'm getting older now and I'm only just figuring some of these things out. So there are things that you can do, and it is useful just to know that you're not alone if you feel those things. It's not weird. There's nothing wrong with you. You just have to find ways of coping and ways of protecting your energy.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I mean, and being an empath, there's absolutely, what am I trying to say? You always pick up those sorts of energies, and it is probably more challenging for empaths to deal with that. And I also believe that being an introvert has a strong connection to being an empath as well. I strongly believe that. We definitely need more time by ourselves to re-energize.
Yeah.
And we also need more time to be able to identify, where is that coming from? What is the source of this? And then work it out from within. We also probably need more time by ourselves, because it is more overwhelming and distracting for us to be amongst a lot of people in groups all the time. And that can cause a lot of stress at the same time as well.
Yeah.
It's not just the physical drainage, it's also the stress levels and just mentally not being in the right headspace.
Yeah.
I think for empaths that's definitely true. Yeah. So what is the one thing that you would do?
Well, there's what I would do and there's what I would recommend other people do. Because I'm not the normal person, if that makes sense. I don't mean that to sound anything more than just what it is. I pretty much just ask my body to rebalance itself and clear that energy, and it happens.
Wonderful.
I can do that really quickly. So for other people, especially if you're just starting to figure these things out, one easy thing that people can do is a shower cleanse. So everyone has a shower, right? Well, the vast majority of people.
You would hope so.
you would hope. So when you're in the shower, just visualize that water coming down over you as cleansing energy, and see all the negative energy being washed away down the plug hole.
That's a beautiful way.
And you can just cleanse yourself that way. And you can even visualize a bubble of protective light surrounding you. You could even, if you knew you were going somewhere busy and that it would be a challenge to you, before you go there, you could visualize putting a big protective bubble around yourself, and every now and then just check in and see that bubble around you. So, you know, little things like that can really help. The first time I got some of my students to practice that shower cleanse, 2 of them reported back the following week that they actually saw blobs of blackness going down the plug hole.
Wow.
And they were slightly alarmed, and I said, well, yeah, not great that you had all that black stuff attached to you, but really cool that you're getting rid of it now.
Yes.
And you have a way of doing that. So,
Yes. Oh, wow. That's amazing.
yeah.
And it can be that intense, it can be that that must have been really strong energy then to be able to
Yeah.
visualize it, even
Yeah.
for them to be aware of it. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, for me as well, I mean, there is a variety of ways to do it. And it probably, for me, depends on the intensity of what I experience in that negative context.
Yeah.
I do the shower as well, which I really love. But I also do the cutting of the cords, which helps
Yeah.
me cleanse at the same time. And what I mean by that is the etheric cords that are
Yeah.
attached. And this is also for the audience that may not be aware of the cords, is that wherever we go, however we interact, we will have etheric cords, energy cords attached to that person or that situation or that event. And what I always believe is that very, very regularly, we will need to cut those cords, because I believe that it helps us to remain in our own power, and it keeps the energy that we have for ourselves to ourselves. Because as an energy healer and a spiritual connector, I do not want my personal energy to be sent into the world, because that may drain me. And that might sound very selfish, but that's my self-care as well.
Yeah.
When I work with energy, I work with universal energy, and I'm the conduit, which is then sent out. But when I do work like that, and being, an empath at that stage too, we absorb the other energies, and that's what we need to let go. So cutting those cords is vital to let go of that, and doing it in that most loving way, to allow the negative energies to be cut away from you. That to me is quite a powerful activity as well. And then I also do the light and the bubble around me, that allows me to still move freely but be protected. Don't really need protection, but that's probably the better word, from anything that can drain.
Yeah.
And some people don't realize that they can drain you as well, because sometimes I stand in front of someone and I look at them, and then I sort of feel into what is going on. I'm like, whoa, you're completely draining me right now. I don't say it at that point, but then for me, it's like, okay, the cord is cut in that moment.
Yeah.
I call them energy vampires.
Yes.
and
It's
people don't
interesting.
realize.
You're giving me good ideas while you're talking. I think sometimes I do things automatically without knowing that's what I'm doing.
Yes.
I've just this past week, I've been investigating and working on developing a protocol for clearing the past lives of horses. Because I suddenly thought, just on Monday this week, well, I know from all the work that I've done that horses are reincarnated very many times as horses. And I know that we are reincarnated many times. And I know that for us, our past lives can have a big effect on us if they haven't been dealt with.
Yeah.
And I do that work with humans too. So I know that, but for some reason it hadn't occurred to me that horses that have had all these incarnations might be being adversely affected in this lifetime by one or more of those previous lives.
Yes.
So something you don't know about me is I'm a bit of a statistics geek, and I like spreadsheets.
Great, now I know who to approach to create that.
And I like doing little surveys. So I put out the word on Monday that I wanted to do a survey to ask horses whether they were being adversely affected by past lives, and if so, how much. And I use a pendulum when I'm doing my little surveys. This is my really fancy pendulum.
Oh, wow, that looks amazing.
So I used the pendulum to ask those two questions, and I tested 103 horses. And only one of those horses was not affected by any past lives. A second one was only 10% affected, so pretty low.
Yeah.
The rest were all 70% or more adversely affected by previous lives.
Wow, that's
which
staggering.
totally blew my mind.
Yeah.
So I've been working on that this week, and I've probably cleared this week about 15 horses so far. And what I'm doing is going back to that past life, and clearing any negative emotions from back there, resolving any unresolved issues, and that seems to be doing the trick. And you just made me think, oh, etheric chords. I need to do, that's probably what I'm doing, but maybe I'll just put that word in there to make sure I am actually doing that. It feels like that's what I'm doing, kind of just resolving everything that happens back then so that they can move forward in this lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I love investigating those kinds of things and seeing what the patterns are.
Yes.
And it enables me to kind of home in on areas that really need attention and help more animals.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And etheric chords, I mean, you cut them in all time directions. So utilizing them for past life experiences could be very beneficial. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. No, I love it. Wow. I can continue talking to you for hours.
This is why I love my job. It's the coolest job in the world.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Every single day. It's just, for me, it's, it's such an honor to be able to do this work and to serve in that capacity. It's, you just want to do this 24/7, but we need to sleep. So it's not necessarily 24/7, but no, wonderful. Thank you, Trisha. That was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sure that the audience has a lot out of this. We're keeping it real, right?
Yeah.
Very practical, yet we connect to all the spiritual realms, which is amazing. So thank you so much.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.